All right, I am pleased to present to you the big Bronco. This is going to be the Outerbanks trim as well. So I've already done a review on the Bronco Sport, and I'm going to leave a link to that in the description box below. But let's be honest, everybody wants this Bronco right here, the big one, the full-sized Bronco. And this is the four-door, of course, with the convertible top, finished in silver, as you can see. But there's so many great color choices available for it. I definitely would recommend getting something else, because if you get some more desirable colors, that can also affect the resale value of a vehicle as well. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about here, and we have some comparisons to make with the Jeep Wrangler, because I did in fact test out a Wrangler 4xe last year, and I actually really like that vehicle. If you've driven a Wrangler, you get why there's such a demand for those vehicles. Yes, it's a flawed product, but yes, that SUV does have its charms. I will say that. But anyway, onto this. Let's start out with the exterior and kind of what's new here, because this is an all-new vehicle. This is a 2021 model year, but for 2022, there's not a whole lot of crazy changes. Let's see here. For a four-cylinder, that's not bad at all. We'll touch on the driving dynamics a little bit later. People have been waiting a long time for this new Bronco to be unveiled, and I don't think Ford has disappointed. I think they have certainly nailed it here with the looks department, with the way it drives, with the capability. I just think that this is a proper automobile. We had a little F-150 drive-by there, and he really seemed to take a liking to the new Bronco. That's another thing. F-150 guys, they love the new Bronco. Everybody loves the new Bronco. In fact, they love it so much that they're paying like what, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 markups on it, maybe even more. I think I heard some dealership charging up to like $150,000 for a full-size Bronco, which is just comical. This big boxy look that this has going on, it looks like a tank, it drives like one as well. In fact, I even like the way the little Bronco looks as well, the Bronco Sport. I thought that had a great appearance to it. If you pay like 33 grand for a Big Bend Bronco Sport, that's honestly not a bad little vehicle, if I'm going to be honest with you. But yes, being the Outerbanks trim, this is kind of the more lifestyle trim level, right? Kind of the daily driver version with some of the luxury interior options. And yes, this would probably be the model I would go with, either this or the Wildtrak. And if I want to save money on this, I would probably get the Big Bend, but no matter what you do, I would definitely get the Sasquatch package on it. In fact, yeah, a Outerbanks trim level with the Sasquatch package would be pretty amazing. And you want that because that's going to give you the proper looks that this vehicle deserves. Okay, that's going to be the most desirable spec, and when you go to resell it, you're going to get more money out of it. In fact, you might even make some money out of it, because that's the way to get these things. I wouldn't really recommend getting a base model trim. So unfortunately, yes, you're going to be paying anywhere between $50,000 to $60,000 for this. And at the time of this recording, the Bronco Raptor also got unveiled, and that's going to be starting at $69,000. I'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the video, towards the end here, but let's move on into some of these driving dynamics, because I really want to make comparisons here with the Jeep Wrangler, because for the first time ever, the Wrangler sees some proper competition, okay? Jeep had a little monopoly going on there for a long time with the Wrangler, and I like it. I like the heritage behind it. I like the looks of it. I like the community behind it. I like how everybody gives you thumbs up when you drive a Wrangler. There's no douchebaggery associated with that vehicle. I love it, man. But obviously that thing was flawed, and really it was flawed in another major way, and that's the safety of it. Have you seen the driver's side overlap test for a Wrangler? Dude, the thing literally flips over. I mean, not only does it annihilate the people inside of it, but it also flips over. Like, I've never seen that happen before. So, and that's a huge difference compared to this, because this big Bronco is surprisingly a very safe vehicle. I mean, the driver's side overlap test for this, it received a good mark, and it does a great job directing away the crash energy away from the occupants. It didn't quite receive a top safety pick like the little Bronco, the Bronco Sport, but this still did great in its own right. And I would actually be willing to put family inside of this big Bronco versus the Jeep Wrangler. And it's unfortunate because I think the Wrangler is one of the cheapest vehicles right now that you can possibly lease. You can get like up to 9% off, I think I saw on Lease Hacker. and it just leases out really well, especially the 4xe model. But because of the safety, I can never pull the trigger on a Wrangler, unfortunately. Whereas this, I can. And also driving wise, this thing has independent front suspension versus the solid axle in the Wrangler. And obviously off-roading, people love the Wranglers for that solid axle in the front. However, this just handles so much better. Even in the steering, there's not a whole lot of play in it. So you just have a lot more confidence driving this harder than the Wrangler. And even the drivetrain options are far superior. Okay, we have this 4-cylinder in this test model here, and honestly, don't disregard the 4-cylinder. This is a really good motor, actually. It pulls really well, especially in the low end. Produces around 275 horsepower and about 300 pounds-feet of torque with regular fuel. And you can't put regular in it, but keep in mind, if you put premium fuel in this vehicle, you can actually up the power to about 300 horsepower and about 330 pounds-feet of torque. But you also have the ability of getting a 2.7 liter EcoBoost 6-cylinder, and that's going to gain you about 330 horsepower and 415 pounds-feet of torque on premium fuel. I would get that simply because engines hold value better than options do, so it's just going to be a more desirable vehicle. But these are all very torquey engines, and I love this 4-cylinder because it doesn't sound bad. It actually has like a diesel quality to it, but in a good way. It doesn't rattle, it's not unrefined, it sounds decent, and it's relatively smooth. But just so you know, out on the highway, this is not going to pull very well because, well, look at this thing. It's a big old brick. The weight is around 4,400 to 5,200 pounds, something like that. It just depends on the different trim levels and what options you go with, but that's around the weight figures for this. But because of the way it's shaped, I mean, it simply can't pull on the highway. It has decent power, but the aerodynamics are not allowing this to pull out of the highway, and nor does that matter because you don't really want to drive this car hot-blooded per se. It's more fun driving it at the speed limit. In fact, it's satisfactory doing the speed limit. This is a rewarding daily driver because when you get it past 80 miles an hour, the wind noise is crazy, and it begins to feel a little bit nervous. Granted, it's far superior to the Wrangler out on the highway. Even that heavy-ass 4xe that I tested out, it weighed around 5,400 pounds, I think. This is still superior to that. So yes, the stability is much improved. And all the engine options are superior to the Wrangler as well. I mean, I tested out the 4-cylinder in the Wrangler. This is so much better. It's so much more fun to drive. And let's go into the other main reason as to why this is a satisfactory daily. It's because this still feels like a proper rig. You know, it still feels like a tank when you pilot this thing. And that's what makes this so entertaining to daily drive. This is a body-on-frame vehicle, but it's not based on the F-150. It's based on the Ford Ranger, so keep that in mind. But still body on frame, and the vehicle lets you know that. It doesn't ride like total garbage, but it lets you know what type of roads you're driving on, okay? If you're going over some jittery roads, the chassis is going to communicate that to you. So all those little jittery bumps, you're going to notice them, but it's never fatiguing, if that makes sense. This feels like an old school vehicle. It feels like an early 2000s car, but with some modern day refinements made to it, if that makes sense. So if if you're tired of all these new cars that are soulless and they feel like nothing to drive, this is not like driving a Mazda CX-5 or a Honda CR-V or any of those vehicles. This still has like that roughness to it that you want without being annoying. And keep in mind, this doesn't have like the Sasquatch package on it or anything like that. This in fact has the 18-inch wheels wrapped in 255 wide Bridgestone Dueler tires. From a noise standpoint, I do like these tires because the Bridgestones don't make a whole lot of noise, but really that doesn't matter because the the wind noise is just nuts in this. In fact, I think the Wrangler might even have been a little bit quieter than this Bronco. So yeah, you are going to get that whistling effect coming from this SUV. And keep in mind, this is the cloth top. I would recommend paying $695 to get the hard top. I think that would quiet this vehicle down a little bit further. And also the brakes do a great job bringing this large vehicle to a halt. But back to the daily driving side of things, I just call this a large vehicle, but in fact, the driving position in this, they've really nailed it, because this doesn't feel like you're driving a massive vehicle. In fact, it actually fits in the lanes just fine. This is not intimidating to drive. So it gives you that large tank-like experience, but it's so easy to maneuver at the same time. I think that's a fantastic thing that they pulled off here. Yeah, I like how this doesn't jostle you about, okay? It doesn't get obnoxious to drive around in, and I'll touch on more of this in the interior segment, but the seats in this are very comfortable, so that also helps out with this. That's what I'm saying. You can actually drive this every day, and it doesn't get old. In fact, it has soul. It has a communicative nature to it that I think it just makes it so satisfactory. And yeah, as much as I like the Wrangler, this is superior in literally every way. I mean, I hate to say that, because I do like that car, that SUV, I mean. But it's the safety of it that really makes me gravitate towards this, and the fact that it just handles better. So you can enjoy this vehicle, this off-roader that has amazing resale value, all the safety, put your family into this, and you can pile up the miles in this, and you don't have to worry about it. Obviously, I don't think it's going to lease out very well, but you know, you can finance this, not going to be a big deal. Yes, when I recommend the Sasquatch package and everything, that's going to ramp up the price. And I recommend the Sasquatch package for a couple of reasons, not only for the looks, but also you're going to be getting 315 wide tires, 35-inch tires, and 17-inch wheels, those kind of beadlock off-road wheels. They just look amazing. But also, this thing, it tends to slip a little bit. Like when you floor this thing mid-corner, you're going to notice it slips. So when it's raining out, it's going to be a little bit annoying to drive, so keep that in mind. But one thing to note, even though you're getting 315 wide tires with the Sasquatch, it's going to be mud terrain tires. They're going to be really noisy. I would get the BF Goodrich KO2 tires, because I found those tires to have a good balance between off-road and daily drivability and looks, because obviously you want to achieve a chunky appearance with the big Broncos, right? So I think that's going to be a good balance, and it should give you a decent amount of grip. There's also a Michelin all-terrain tire. It doesn't look quite as beefy and chunky as the KO2s, but they're probably the best tires out there for truck-like SUV products. Don't floor this thing mid-corner, you know, don't do anything stupid like that. Drive it at the speed limit. It's so satisfactory. But keep in mind, it's those unrefined characteristics that make you connected to the car. You know, so don't see it as a con. Those are the reasons why this is so cool to drive, honestly. It feels interesting, feels unique, it feels old school. You finally feel connected to it. You know, I'm not a truck person, I'm not an SUV guy, I'm not an off-roader. You know, I don't really, you know, these types of vehicles don't really appeal to me. I like big body luxury sedans and coupes that sit low to the ground. That's what I like. Despite me mentioning to you the taste that I have in vehicles, I would still be happy to daily drive this. That should sum things up for you right there. Let's go ahead and let's transition over into the interior segment now. Alright, so now that we are stopped, let's go ahead and let's talk about this interior space, because this is another aspect of this Bronco that I really like. Yeah, this is a pretty damn good product. I like the way it drives, I like how it looks, and I like this interior because it's solid. It's well built in here. Yes, they use a lot of plastics, but it's all kind of texturized materials, and even though it's plastic, it's built almost like a Toyota product, like a 2021 Tundra. That's what this feels like. So it feels robust, it feels well screwed together in here. And I already mentioned the seats to you during the drive, but they are very comfortable. These kind of leather seats offer some good lumbar support as well. So I can do a lot of miles on this and not feel fatigued. Despite some of the wind noise and all those other things, it's not really an issue. Now, there's no creaks and rattles in here, but you know, this is the soft top, and some of the bracings in here or whatever, that kind of tends to make some noises. But other than that, it's pretty well done in here. I like it, and I like the overall design layout as well. It's simple, it's ergonomic, you know where everything is. You have enough physical buttons in here to interact with, especially for the climate control, so that's a huge plus. You have heated seats in here, a heated steering wheel, and I will say the heated steering wheel doesn't really work all that great, but the heated seats work fantastic. And another thing, I love this 12-inch display. And in fact, I would actually want this in this vehicle, because otherwise, if you go with like a big bend and you get the Sasquatch package, you get that vehicle for around $49,000. Yeah, you got a fantastic looking Bronco on the outside, but you are foregoing a couple of things. Like, you can't get the 12-inch screen in that Big Bend. You don't even have an option of getting the Bang & Olufsen sound system, and a couple other things as well. When you get like a luxury trim Outerbanks like this, you will be getting this excellent 12-inch display, because even though it's a large screen, it's just so well integrated into the dash. And same thing with the Ford F-150. I actually mentioned that in that video as well. It's quick to respond, it's laid out well, it's easy to use. Everything about it is ergonomic and easy to use. And the sound system, the Bang & Olufsen, I mean, is it worth it? Yes and no. This isn't the best vehicle to be enjoying music in due to all the noise and everything that's involved with it. But yeah, whatever. If you can afford it, yeah, go for it. Otherwise, you could just get like a high package trim, and that should be fine for most people, because you will still get this screen. And at least getting the mid-level package will get you all the safety features that you would want, at least the useful ones, like the blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, front collision assistance, and all those things, right? So at least get the mid-level package, but I would at least try to strive for this high package so you can get the infotainment screen. And yes, it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I think you have to get the luxury package to get the wireless charging pad. It's a good place to store your phone. You have a USB-C port and a regular USB port. 2 cup holders, traditional shifter, your GOAT modes, right? Basically your 4x4 modes. I mean, yeah, this is a very off-road capable machine. But what are you going to be doing with this? You're going to be taking this in Nordstrom, and on the way back, you're going to stop at the Starbucks drive-thru, and you're going to jump a curb, and that's about all the off-roading that you're going to be seeing. But I don't know, if you are an off-road enthusiast, I hope you take advantage of it, because this is a very capable machine. Another thing, the gauge cluster is quite interesting. You have a physical speedometer in here, but you also have a little rectangular screen in there for your other information, like your fuel gauge, your digital speedometer, and your digital tachometer. This car actually gets decent fuel economy with the 4-cylinder. That's another reason to consider this. I've been driving the hell out of this thing out in the city, and I'm still getting around 17, 18 mpg driving it hard. Now, like I already mentioned, out on the highway, it's not going to get amazing fuel economy because the aerodynamics of this thing, it doesn't do good at higher speeds. And because of that, you're going to be getting about the same 17 mpg out on the highway as well. But I would still strive for the 6-cylinder for the extra little bit of smoothness, and I guess the extra power, but most importantly, the resale value attached to the 6-cylinder models. You have automatic headlights in here, automatic one-touch windows for all 4 windows. You don't have double pane glass, but it is a rather thick piece of glass being used here. The mirrors do a great job in this, and it's just overall very easy to drive, very easy to see out of this thing. Decent amount of space in the center armrest as well as the glove box. Actually, there's a lot of space in the glove box. But the door pocket space, well, I mean, it's just a net, so you can put bottles in there, I guess, but that's all you're getting in terms of door pocket space. You also have extra space up here on the dash to store more phones. So if anybody wants to charge their phone, there's a USB port up here, and you have these little trays to put more cell phones. I just thought that was very interesting. Now, regarding the rear seats, not bad, not plentiful, but certainly not bad. They're very usable. I am 5'11". Getting in and out of this vehicle, well, you know, it's a little tough because you definitely have to use those side steps. It's a vehicle that sits up higher, of course. But once you're in here, you know, I can certainly sit behind myself. I like how the rear backing is soft, so you can kind of dig your knees into it a little bit more. And there's plenty of toe room as well, so that helps. So yes, you can certainly fit adults back there. I think it's a little bit more spacious than the Wrangler. And the seats continue to be comfortable back there. And the trunk space is decent as well. But the thing is, because this is the soft top, if you want full access, you're going to have to remove that rear windshield, I guess, that plastic windshield. So if you want the maximum access to the trunk there. And you can fold down the seats 60-40. However, it doesn't lay flat, just so you know, but you can fold them down. So overall, good vehicle. I would personally consider this for a multitude of reasons. Resale value, safety, and a satisfactory everyday drive. Don't really have any complaints with this, honestly. There's actually another thing I totally forgot to mention. I don't know why, but it's a 10-speed automatic. I would definitely opt for this 10-speed because it does a great job. It is so smooth to shift. They've done some major improvements over the last few model years Compared to the last few model years, this 10-speed is a huge improvement. It's smooth. It doesn't feel like it's wandering or gear hunting or anything like that. It's doing exactly what I needed to do, and when I floor it or when I stomp on the throttle, it immediately downshifts for me into the right gear. So that I'm really impressed by. I do like this. And there is a 7-speed manual option that is very interesting, very unique. Off-roading people might like it, but it's only available with the 4 cylinders. I personally wouldn't get it because I'm not an off-road person. I don't really care about that. I think the 10-speed auto is the way to go. It's probably also going to get superior fuel economy. Another thing I forgot to mention is the auto stop start. It is so smooth. I would actually leave it on in this vehicle. They did not screw this up. This is a proper machine that you should be interested in. Yes, it has its compromises, but for the most part, I think it's worth it. The Wrangler for me is finished, unfortunately. As much as I like it, I'm going with this all day long. Now, the other thing is the Raptor got unveiled. If you have a minimum of $70,000, then yes, go ahead, get the Raptor. You know it's going to keep its value for years and years to come. But the thing is, though, you need like $69,000, $70,000 to get started with that vehicle, whereas with this, you can get a well-equipped big Bronco that's going to look amazing for around $50,000 to $58,000. Yeah, nobody's going to use the off-roading capability of the Raptor. That's besides the point. It looks amazing, and it's also going to have the most powerful drivetrain option. It's a 3-liter EcoBoost 6-cylinder, so it's not the 3.5-liter high output found in the Raptor F-150s, but it's still going to make plenty of power, 400 horsepower. I don't think the torque got officially unveiled yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be over 500 pounds-feet of torque, so it's going to be plenty powerful. You know, drag racing, street racing, that's not the purpose for this thing anyway, so it's just going to be the biggest, most badass Bronco that you can possibly get with 37-inch tires on it, mind you. If you don't have the money for that, don't worry about it. I would just get this, because this is also going to be pretty desirable and much cheaper to buy into. There's new vehicles coming out every day, it seems like, so there's always all these vehicles trying to grab you for your money, but I enjoyed this. I like how old school it feels. Hopefully you found value with this Bronco review. Thanks again for watching. Take care and goodbye.